we are going to start another session on inclusion in decentralized governance. So I will not take much time before the speakers or the paper presentators will have their own session. We have Indu Tuladhar. She is an advocate. She works with the Himalayan Innovative Development and Research, Kathmandu. She will speak on the issues of women and inclusion in Nepal's federalized governance. Basically, she will focus on the task unfinished, so that is the important aspect.
हजुर सबैजनालाई नमस्कार म इन्दु तुलाधर हिजोदेखि आजसम्म हामीले नेपालको फेडरलिजम र अब ग्लोबल एक्सपिरियन्सेसहरुको बारेमा पनि हामीले धेरै डिस्कसनहरु गर्यौं धेरै छलफलहरु गर्दै छौं र यो छलफल गर्ने क्रममा मलाई दुई तीनटा कुराहरु चाहिँ मेरो मनमा लागेको छ त्यो चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि नेपालको कन्स्टिट्युसनको सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ हाम्रो जुन अब यो 8 वर्षको दौरानमा हामीले जुन फेडरलिजमको जुन अभ्यासहरु गर्यौं जुन प्र्याक्टिसहरु हामीले गर्यौं त्यसमा चाहिँ धेरै जसो चाहिँ कस्तो किसिमको ओपिनियनहरु आयो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो फेडरलिजम राइट ट्र्याकमा गइरहेको छैन कि भन्ने जस्तो मेसेजेसहरु म रङ पनि हुन सक्छु तर मैले त्यस्तो किसिमले ग्रहण गरे अब त्यसपछि एज अ लको स्टुडेन्ट्सको हिसाबले चाहिँ मलाई कस्तो लाग्यो भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो फेडरलिजममा चाहिँ विकनेसेसहरु हुनु हाम्रो प्र्याक्टिसमा आएको चाहिँ एउटा उतार चढावहरु चाहिँ के कन्स्टिट्युसनल फ्रेमवर्कमै भएको लिमिटेशन्सको कारणले त्यो भएको हो कि हाम्रो आफ्नो बिहेभियर हाम्रो अभ्यासमा आएको लिमिटेशन्स हो भन्ने एउटा कुरा हामीले डिस्कसन गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो अर्को चाहिँ इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन्सको दौरानमा हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसन हाम्रो फेडरलिजमलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्ने दौरानमा चाहिँ भनौं न हामीले भोगेको चाहिँ जुन समस्याहरु चाहिँ हामीले इन्टेन्सनली नै फेडरलिजमलाई फेल गर्नको लागि हामीले गरिरहेको छौं कि हाम्रो इनक्यापेबिलिटिज हाम्रो चाहिँ क्षमता र हाम्रो रिसोर्सेसको अभावको कारणले यो भइरहेको छ भन्ने कुरा पनि हामीले एकदमै गम्भीर ढंगले छलफल गर्नुपर्ने जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो साच्चै नै के त फेडरलिजम प्रति हाम्रो इल इन्टेन्सन हो त हामीले फेडरलिजमलाई राम्रो ढंगले ट्र्याक गर्नु नसकेको भन्ने कुराहरुको निराकरण चाहिँ अब आजको कन्फरेन्समा र आजको मेरो पेपरमा त आउँदैन तर मलाई कस्तो लाग्थ्यो भने हिजोदेखि आजसम्म हामीले डिस्कसन गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अबको कन्फरेन्स र अबको हाम्रो वर्कसपहरु अबको हाम्रो पोलिसी डायलग्सहरु चाहिँ यतातिर चाहिँ जानुपर्छ कि भन्ने कुरा राख्दै म आजको मेरो पेपर को चाहिँ मेरो आफ्नो पेपरमा चाहिँ म फोकस हुन चाहन्छु मेरो पेपरले चाहिँ आज दुई तीनटा कुराहरु हाइलाइट गर्ने मैले कोसिस गरेको छु एउटा चाहिँ मैले भनौं न हामीले गभर्नेन्सको कुरा गर्यौं अब डेमोक्रेटिक गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरु गर्यौं र आज आएर चाहिँ हामी इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरु गर्दै छौं र इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरु गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनले चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ लोकल गभर्नेन्सको फ्रेमवर्कलाई कसरी भिजुअलाइज गरेको छ त हामीले कस्तो किसिमको मार्गदर्शन हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनले हामीलाई दिएको छ त भन्ने एउटा कुरा म हाइलाइट गर्न चाहन्छु त्यसपछि हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनले दिएको फ्रेमवर्क भित्र रहेर हामीले 8 वर्ष हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनलाई हाम्रो जीवन पद्धति बनाउनको लागि चाहिँ हामीले कस्तो किसिमको अभ्यासहरु गर्यौं त्यसमा सकारात्मक अभ्यासहरु के रहे र हामीले सुधार्नु पर्ने अभ्यासहरु चाहिँ के छ त भन्ने कुराको बारेमा मैले मेरो अब्जर्भेशन्सहरु यो मेरो अब्जर्भेशन्सहरु चाहिँ मैले दुई तीनटा सोर्सेसहरुबाट चाहिँ मैले ग्यादर गर्ने कोसिस गरेको छु एउटा चाहिँ लोकल गभर्नेन्स सँगको मेरो आफ्नो प्रत्यक्ष संलग्नता मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो यो भन्दा पहिलाको 3 इयरको लोकल गभर्नेन्सको रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभहरु विशेष गरी चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ डेपुटी मेयर्सहरु चाहिँ 753 मध्ये मैले हाराहारी 300 जनासँग प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा अन्तर्क्रिया गर्ने अवसर मैले प्राप्त गरे त्यो अनुभवलाई पनि मैले यहाँहरु समक्ष अलिकता पस्किन कोसिस कोसिस गर्छु भने अर्को चाहिँ हाम्रा स्कलरहरूले हाम्रो एकाडेमिया हाम्रो प्र्याक्टिसनर्सहरू हाम्रो मिडियाले चाहिँ लोकल गभर्नेन्स र इन्क्लुसिभ लोकल गभर्नेन्सको सन्दर्भमा प्रड्युस गरेका रिसोर्सेसहरूलाई पनि मैले अलिकता आधार मानेको छु मैले यो अब्जर्भेसन्सहरू यो प्र्याक्टिसेसहरूलाई हेर्ने क्रममा अनि अर्को कुरा चाहिँ तेस्रोमा चाहिँ म कन्फर्म छैन मैले वे फरवर्ड जुन दिन्छु त्यो हाम्रो लागि एकदमै यही नै सोल्युसन हो म भनेर दाबी गर्दैन तर केही मलाई लागेको कुराहरू चाहिँ अब हामी यसरी जाँदा हुन्छ कि भन्ने ढङ्गले केही वे फरवर्डहरू दिने कोसिस चाहिँ मैले गर्छु मेरो बुझाइमा अब इन्क्लुसिभ लोकल गभर्नेन्स भनेर भन्दै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले आफ्नो बुझाइलाई पहिला स्पष्ट गर्नुपर्छ म के आधारमा यो कुराहरू भन्दैछु भन्ने कुराहरू सायद महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ होला भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ मैले इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि हुन त इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरू गर्दै गर्दाखेरि हामीसँग एकदमै सबैले सहमत गर्ने एउटा हाम्रो चाहिँ एकदमै अग्रिड डेफिनेसन्स हामी पाउँदैनौँ ग्लोबल लिटरेचर हेर्दा पनि पाउँदैनौँ र हाम्रो लिटरेचरमा पनि हामीले चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स भनेको यो नै हो यति कुराहरू भयो भने चाहिँ ल इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स हुन्छ भनेर त्यसरी एउटा अग्रिड डेफिनेसन्सहरू हामीसँग छैन तर पनि धेरै लिटरेचरहरू हेर्दै गर्दाखेरि र हाम्रो आफ्नै पनि एउटा कन्स्टिट्युसन हाम्रो प्र्याक्टिसेसहरू हाम्रो एक्सपेक्टेसन्सहरूलाई मैले यसरी अब्जर्भ गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स भन्दा दुईटा कुराहरूलाई मैले हेरेको दुईटा महत्त्वपूर्ण इन्ग्रेडियन्ट्स चाहिँ त्यसमा छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ एउटा भनेको चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स भनेको प्रोसेस हो जहाँ चाहिँ भनौँ न त्यो सोसाइटी त्यो समाज त्यो राष्ट्रको डाइभर्सिटी हैन त्यहाँ भइरहेको हिस्टोरिकल एक्सक्लुजनमा परेको व्यक्तिहरूलाई चाहिँ अगाडि ल्याउने उनीहरूलाई अपर्च्युनिटीहरू इन्स्योर गर्ने चाहिँ एउटा प्रोसेस हो भन्ने ढङ्गले मैले बुझेको छु भने अर्को चाहिँ त्यसो भन्दै गर्दाखेरि यसले पार्टिसिपेसनलाई मिनिङफुल पार्टिसिपेसनलाई जोड दिइरहेको हामी देख्छौँ भने अर्को चाहिँ मैले आउटकमको रूपमा चाहिँ अब इन्क्लुसिभ के अरे यो इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स चाहिँ एउटा प्रोसेस हो भन्दै गर्दाखेरि हामीले एक्सक्लुडेड ग्रुपहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले मेन स्ट्रिममा ल्याउने र डिसिजन मेकिङमा उनीहरूको रोल र उनीहरूको चाहिँ मिनिङफुल एउटा चाहिँ उनीहरूको भोइसहरूलाई सुन्ने अवस्था सृजना गर्ने हो भनेर भन्दै गर्दाखेरिको अवस्थामा चाहिँ त्यसको परिणाम के आयो त आउटकम के आयो त त्यसले चाहिँ आम नागरिकलाई चाहिँ कस्तो किसिमको असर गर्यो त उनीहरूको जीवनमा चाहिँ त्यसले के परिवर्तन ल्यायो त भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ लाई मैले आउटकमको रूपमा हेरेको छु जसलाई मैले चाहिँ एउटा टर्म दिएको छ जस्ट ल पोलिसी एक्सन अनि जस्ट रिसोर्स डिस्ट्रिब्युसनको कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ मैले त्यसमा हेर्ने कोसिस गरेको छु सो मेरो यो जुन अब इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको यो लिमिटेड बुझाइ पनि हुन्छ जहाँनिर चाहिँ हामीले लिमिटेड के अरे इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि अब ह्युमन राइट्सको कुरा ट्रान्सपरेन्सीको कुराहरू हैन यो सबै जुन गभर्नेन्सको जुन इन्ग्रेडियन्ट्सहरू छ त्यो चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको पनि एउटा पार्ट हो र डेमोक्रेटिक भ्यालुज र नर्म्सहरू भनेर हामीले जुन कुराहरू हामीले गरिरहेका छौँ त्यो पनि इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको चाहिँ एउटा एकदमै इन्टग्रल पार्टको रूपमा त्यो आउँछ भन्ने ढङ्गले मैले इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सलाई हेरेको छु यो पर्सपेक्टिभबाट मैले मेरो कन्स्टिट्युसन अर्थात् नेपालको कन्स्टिट्युसनलाई अध्ययन गर्दै गर्दाखेरि नेपालको लोकल गभर्नेन्सलाई इन्क्लुसिभ बनाउनको लागि मेरो कन्स्टिट्युसन अर्थात् मेरो देशको कन्स्टिट्युसन नेपालको कन्स्टिट्युसन चाहिँ बाधक छ कि त्यसले फेसिलिटेट गरिरहेको छ भन्ने पर्सपेक्टिभबाट मैले अध्ययन गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मलाई के लाग्छ भने मेरो कन्स्टिट्युसन मेरो देशको कन्स्टिट्युसन अर्थात् नेपालको कन्स्टिट्युसनले नेपालको लोकल गभर्नेन्सलाई इन्स्योर गर्नको लागि यसले कहीँ पनि रेस्ट्रिक्सन लगाएको छैन यसले फेसिलिटेट नै गरिरहेको छ भन्ने ढङ्गले मैले यसलाई प्रेजेन्ट गर्न खोजिरहेको छु अनि यसको केही निश्चित आधारहरू छ त्यो आधारहरूमा चाहिँ मैले चारवटा कुराहरूलाई हेर्न खोजेको छु मेरो कन्स्टिट्युसनलाई मैले अध्ययन गर्दै गर्दाखेरि किनभने कन्स्टिट्युसन मेकिङ प्रोसेसदेखि नै यो प्रोसेसमा आफूलाई पनि समाइट कुनै न कुनै ढङ्गले गर्दै आएको ढङ्गले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ यो कन्स्टिट्युसन ल्याउनको लागि जुन प्रयत्न गऱ्यौँ यो कन्स्टिट्युसनमा कस्तो कस्तो कुराहरू आउनुपर्छ मेरो राइटलाई इन्स्योर गर्ने भन्ने पक्षबाट हामीले काम गर्दै गर्दाखेरि हामीले उपलब्धिको रूपमा 3-4वटा कुराहरू चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको लाई सपोर्ट गर्ने लोकल गभर्नेन्सलाई सपोर्ट गर्ने के इन्ग्रिडियन्ट्सहरू चाहिँ हामीले राम्रैसँग हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनमा रिफ्लेक्सन गर्न र त्यसलाई इन्भिजन गर्न र नेपाललाई नेपाली समाजलाई मलाई मेरो परिवारलाई मार्गदर्शन गर्न चाहिँ यसले पर्याप्त एउटा मार्ग प्रशस्त गरेको जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। पहिलो कुरा चाहिँ हामीले के गर्यौँ भन्दाखेरि हामी एउटा डाइभर्स सोसाइटी हो भन्ने कुरालाई हामीले एकदमै एक्नोलेज गर्यौँ। हामीले राष्ट्रको परिभाषा गर्यौँ र राष्ट्रभित्र हामीले कसैलाई पनि छुटाएनौँ हैन। त्यो एउटा चाहिँ हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनको एउटा सुन्दर पक्ष हो जसले इन्क्लुजनलाई प्रमोसन गर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। दोस्रो कुरा भनेको हामीले चाहिँ भनौँ न धर्मनिरपेक्षताको कुरा गऱ्यौँ। हामी अब हाम्रो राष्ट्रको धर्म छैन, हामी सबै धर्मका मान्छेहरू चाहिँ यहाँ हामी सँगै बाँच्न सक्छौँ, सँगै हामीले हाम्रो कल्चरलाई हाम्रो पहिचानलाई हामी प्रमोट गर्न सक्छौँ, स्ट्रेन्थन गर्न सक्छौँ र हामी हाँसी खुसी मिलेर बस्न सक्छौँ भन्ने भाष्य त्यो किसिमको न्यारेटिभ्सलाई हामीले कन्स्टिट्युसनमा स्टाब्लिस गर्न हामी सफल भयौँ जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। दोस्रो कुरा। तेस्रो कुरा चाहिँ हामीले हेर्नुहोस् हैन, एउटा कन्स्टिट्युसनको ब्युटी भनेको के हो त भन्दाखेरि त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसनले त्यो देशको नागरिकलाई कतिको सशक्त बनाए त भन्ने कुरा हामीले हेर्नुपर्छ होला। इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको कुरा गर्दाखेरि त्यो गर्दाखेरि हामीले 31वटा फन्डामेन्टल राइट्सहरूलाई हामीले इन्स्योर गऱ्यौँ र हामीले के गऱ्यौँ भन्दाखेरि प्रत्येक नागरिक तिमी सोभरेन छौ र तिम्रो अधिकार यदि राज्य पक्षले होस् अथवा गैर राज्य पक्षले इन्टरभेन्सन गर्छ भने तिमी त्यसको विरुद्धमा उभिन सक्छौ भनेर एउटा यस्तो औजार हामीलाई चाहिँ एउटा फन्डामेन्टल राइट्सको रूपमा दिएको छ हैन। त्यो पनि मलाई लाग्छ हामीले त्यसमा सिभिल पोलिटिकल राइट्स मात्र होइन, इकोनोमिक जस्टिस, सोसियल सिक्युरिटी जस्ता कुराहरूलाई पनि हामीले आत्मसात गर्यौँ। त्यो पनि यसको एउटा सुन्दर पक्ष हो भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। अनि अर्को महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा चाहिँ हामीले संरचनागत रूपमा हामीले के कुरालाई आत्मसात गर्यौँ त भन्दाखेरि हिजो हाम्रो केन्द्रीकृत शासन प्रणाली हुँदाखेरि जुन किसिमको एउटा बेरियरहरू हामीले महसुस गर्यौँ, हामी एक्सक्लुडेड भएको जुन किसिमको फिलिङ्सहरू हामीले ल्यायौँ, त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले भनौँ न फेडरलिजमलाई चाहिँ अहिलेसम्म हामीले कसरी मात्र हेऱ्यौँ भन्दाखेरि यो स्टेटको एउटा स्ट्रक्चर हो, स्टेटको एउटा मेकानिजम हो, यो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिभ यो भन्ने ढङ्गले मात्र हामीले न्यारेटिभ्सहरू त्यस्तो किसिमको भाष्यहरू बनाइरहेको छु। तर मैले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नेपालको इन्क्लुजनको डिबेट हुँदाखेरि र त्यो डिबेटमा चाहिँ हामीले आधार पत्रहरू तयार गर्दाखेरि र भर्खरै पनि नेपालको पार्लियामेन्टले चाहिँ एउटा नेपालको फेडरलिजमको इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको सन्दर्भमा आएको चुनौतीहरूलाई हेर्दाखेरि के छन् त भन्ने कुरा अध्ययन गर्ने क्रममा जुन विशेष समिति बन्यो त्यो समितिले ल्याएको प्रतिवेदनले के भन्छ त भन्दाखेरि हामीले फेडरलिजम अडप्ट गर्नुको मूलभूत कुरा भनेको नै इन्क्लुजनलाई इन्क्लुजनलाई चाहिँ हामीले इन्स्टिट्युसनलाइज गर्नलाई हामीले गरिरहेछौँ। 5 मिनट्स है। सो यो होल पर्सपेक्टिभभित्र हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ के देख्छु भन्दाखेरि अपर्च्युनिटी लोकल इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स बनाउनको लागि मैले अपर्च्युनिटिजहरू मैले देखिरहेको छु। यो मेसेज म यहाँहरू समक्ष मेरो अध्ययनबाट देखेको मेरो अब्जर्भेसनबाट म यो मेसेज दिन चाहन्छु। अब मैले प्र्याक्टिसको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि हो प्र्याक्टिसमा चाहिँ अब हामीले यो जुन कन्स्टिट्युसनमा भिजुअलाइज गरेका यी कुराहरूलाई हामीले हाम्रो जीवनसँग कसरी तादात्म्यता मिलाउन सक्यौँ कि सकेनौँ भन्ने कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि अब त्यो तादात्म्यता मिलाउने कुराको पहिलो चरण भनेको चाहिँ हाम्रो लेजिस्लेटिभ प्रोसेसहरू हो हैन। हाम्रो पार्लियामेन्टले 2टा चरणको हाम्रो चाहिँ लोकल गभर्मेन्टको चाहिँ हाम्रो इलेक्सन भइसक्यो। त्यो हुँदै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले जुन लेजिस्लेसन्सहरू ल्यायौँ त्यसले चाहिँ भनौँ न मैले पार्टिसिपेसनकै कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि पनि हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनले के गर्यो प्रोसेस इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्सको प्रोसेसको कुरा गर्दाखेरि हामीले प्रोपोर्सनल पार्टिसिपेसनलाई फन्डामेन्टल राइट्सको रूपमा लियौँ, तर हाम्रो लेजिस्लेसन्सहरू आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले 33%मा कन्फाइन गरिदियौँ। फन्डामेन्टल राइट्स र कन्स्टिट्युसनकै अरू राइट्सहरू चाहिँ बिचमा हामीले हार्मोनाइज कसरी गरेर हामीले म्याक्सिमम चाहिँ हामीले इन्क्लुजनको कुरालाई प्रमोट गर्नेतिर भन्दाखेरि पनि कन्स्टिट्युसनको लुप होल्सलाई पो हामीले हेर्न खोज्यौँ कि भन्ने इम्प्रेसन चाहिँ नभएको होइन, त्यो छ प्र्याक्टिसमा। त्यो कुरा राखेँ मैले। त्यसपछि 2टा इलेक्सनलाई हामीले लोकल इलेक्सनलाई अब्जर्भ गर्दाखेरि 2017 को इलेक्सन र 2022 को इलेक्सनमा केही फन्डामेन्टल डिफरेन्सेसहरू आएको छ। पिपलको पार्टिसिपेसनको लेभललाई हेर्दाखेरि पनि 2017 भन्दा 2022 मा आउँदाखेरि हाम्रो 10% पार्टिसिपेसन लेस भएको छ लोकल गभर्मेन्ट्सको चाहिँ एकदम भोटिङ राइट्स प्रयोग गर्नेहरूको हकमा पनि। यसरी हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीसँग अलिकता इलेक्सन हाम्रो लिडर्सहरूप्रति हाम्रो डिसस्याटिस्फ्याक्सन्सहरू हो कि भन्ने कुराहरू अलिकता त्यो कुराहरू देखिन्छ। अनि मैले चाहिँ भनौँ न इन्क्लुसिभ लोकल गभर्नेन्सको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि पार्टिसिपेसनको मात्र कुरा गरेर भएन, हामीले इक्वल सिटिजन्सको कुराहरू गर्नुपर्छ, हामीले ह्युमन राइट्सको कुराहरू गर्नुपर्छ, रुल अफ लको कुराहरू गर्नुपर्छ र सोसियल प्रोटेक्सनको कुराहरू गर्नुपर्छ। किन भन्दाखेरि सर्टन मान्छेहरू डिसिजन मेकिङ प्रोसेसमा जाने बित्तिकै हाम्रो स्टेट, हाम्रो नेसन, हाम्रो लोकल गभर्मेन्ट्स, हाम्रो प्रोभिन्सियल गभर्मेन्ट्स चाहिँ इन्क्लुसिभ भयो भन्ने न्यारेटिभ्स हामीले बनाउनु हुँदैन। त्यसबाट चाहिँ आउटकमको रूपमा हाम्रा हरेक सिटिजनले आफू इन्क्लुसिभ भएको फिल गरे कि गरेन, त्यस्तो महसुस गरे कि गरेन भन्ने कुरा हाम्रो लागि महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ। त्यस्तो भन्दै गर्दाखेरि यो पर्सपेक्टिभबाट हेर्दै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले अब भनौँ न सोसियल इकोनोमिक राइट्सहरू चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ महिलाहरूको सन्दर्भमा मैले कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि महिलाहरूलाई त हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनले के भन्यो त भन्दाखेरि शिक्षामा, स्वास्थ्यमा हैन तिमीलाई विशेष अधिकार हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा हामीले गर्यौँ इम्प्लोइमेन्टमा। तर हामीले इम्प्लोइमेन्ट सम्बन्धी एक्ट ल्यायौँ, शिक्षा सम्बन्धी एक्ट अब हामीले बनाउँदैछौँ। त्यो बनाउँदै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसनले भिजुअलाइज गरेको त्यो विशेष अधिकार के हो त भन्ने कुरा त्यसलाई चाहिँ हाम्रो जीवनसँग जोड्न सक्ने गरी हाम्रो पार्लिमेन्टेरियनहरू तयार नभएको हो कि किन भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो लेजिस्लेसनहरू एकदमै जेन्डर न्युट्रल भएर आयो हैन। यो किसिमको लिमिटेसन्सहरू चाहिँ हाम्रो छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो 8 इयर्समा हामीले जे जति प्रगति गर्यौँ त्यसलाई हामीले एकदमै नकारात्मक ढङ्गले प्रेजेन्ट गर्नु भन्दाखेरि पनि वी आर टुवर्ड्स, तर हामीले अचिभ गर्नुपर्ने धेरै नै कुराहरू बाँकी छ र हामीले अहिले चाहिँ सिभिल राइट्सलाई फोकस गरिरहेका छौँ इन्क्लुजनको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि विच इज नट इनफ भन्ने कुराहरूलाई राख्दै अब चाहिँ मैले कन्क्लुडिङ मेरो उसमा चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि कन्स्टिट्युसन हाम्रो बाधक छैन, कन्स्टिट्युसनले हामीलाई सहजीकरण गरिरहेको छ, तर कन्स्टिट्युसनप्रतिको हाम्रो अनेस्टी, कन्स्टिट्युसनप्रतिको हाम्रो अकाउन्टेबिलिटी, हाम्रो जवाफदेहिता के हो त भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ अब हामीले चाहिँ छलफल गर्ने कुरा र अब हाम्रो अर्को कन्फरेन्सको विषयवस्तु चाहिँ त्यो हुनुपर्छ कि भन्ने मलाई लागेको छ। र त्यसलाई हामीले डाइनामिक एउटा ढङ्गले यसलाई प्रयोग गरौँ, न कि यसलाई झन्झन सङ्कुचित गरेर शाब्दिक परिभाषा गर्नेतिर भन्दाखेरि पनि यसको मकसद, यसको पृष्ठभूमिलाई हामीले हेरौँ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। यति नै भन्दै म समयले मलाई साथ दिएन, अरू कुराहरू चाहिँ हजुरहरूको प्रश्न आएपछि मैले जवाफ दिने कोसिस गर्ने नै छु। हस्, थ्याङ्क यू।
धन्यवाद इन्दुजी। अब म पछाडि राखौँला मेरा कुराहरू, अहिले म टाइमको कारणले गर्दाखेरि पनि फटाफट अगाडि जान चाहन्छु। यस पछाडि अब अर्को पेपर छ हाम्रो टेक टमाटा, उहाँ चाहिँ एडभोकेट हुनुहुन्छ, अहिले चाहिँ युनाइटेड नेसन्समा काम गर्नुहुन्छ र खास गरी फेडरलिजमको कन्टेक्स्टमा हाम्रो इन्क्लुसिभ फेडरलिजम चाहिँ मिथ हो कि रियालिटी हो भन्ने कन्टेक्स्टबाट उहाँले आफ्नो पेपर अगाडि बढाउनुहुन्छ। यु हेभ 15 मिनट्स स्ट्रिक्टली। समयमा म कम्प्रोमाइज गर्दिनँ, मैले सुरुदेखि भनेको छु। अब हजुरहरूले सेल्फ म्यानेज गर्नु होला, अदरवाइज आई हेभ टु इन्टरभेन।
Thank you so much. I'll be very much brief and try to kind of complete on time. And there are 4 things that I would be kind of sharing on my end. The first thing is, where are we in terms of constitutional schemes towards inclusive federalism in Nepal? Secondly, the ground reality, whether we are really on track in terms of ensuring the compliance with the constitutional provisions or not. The thirdly, the way forward, the course of correction, and lastly, a few messages to deliver. Going through the constitutional provision, as discussed previously, there are beautiful, provisions in it. If you see the preambular provision, and before that, I have to remind you on the comprehensive peace accord. The gist of the comprehensive peace accord was to really, root out the exclusion and build the access of marginalized communities to the state resources. And as a follow-up intervention, you had interim constitution, you have Magna, Bill of Rights, and the more important thing was to kind of ensure the socio-economic and cultural rights as one of the key things to pursue, through the state kind of interventions. And again, the outcome of participatory constitution building process, you have the new constitution with a lot of good things. Talking about good things, let me start with the preambular provision of the constitution, which again says to, establish the egalitarian society, the socialistic society, the society where you have full-fledged of realization of your human rights. That's the objective behind, and that's the heart of the constitution. As a law student, I have to say it among you. And more importantly, under the fundamental rights chapter, you have two approach. Globally, Constitution doesn't really recognize it, but it's a fortunate part of us that you have two approaches. One is about protective approach, which is more on empowerment of your marginalized communities, under which you have recognized the collective rights, under which you have recognized the socio-economic cultural rights, and more importantly, the affirmative action for genuine inclusion. So that's the protective part of your fundamental rights. And more importantly, the second one, which wants to really address the issues of systematic exclusion and structural discrimination, under which you have anti-discrimination provision, under which you have anti-untouchability kind of practices, and it focuses more on root out the behavioral part, root out the attitudinal part, and more importantly, you have few other things wherein Constitution really wants to establish the egalitarian society by ending all forms of exclusion, exploitations, and stigmatization. And going through the roadmap, the blueprint of the Constitution towards inclusive federalism, you have again a lot of outcomes, visions kind of envisioned by Constitution towards inclusive society, towards egalitarian society, and towards equitable distribution of resources. If you see under Part 4th of the Constitution, it is called directive principle. And at the same time, Constitution is aware about only having cosmetic provision doesn't really make sense. You should have oversight mechanism. You should have enforcement mechanism. You should have guarantee to make them realized, for which you have constitutional oversight mechanism, including National Human Rights Commission. You have other 6 commissions established towards, again, establishing, the constitutional visions into the reality. I do not want to go into detail, but these are the things under the Constitution, again, going into the, reality. Unfortunately, you have a lot of cases happening, talking about discrimination, caste-based discrimination, GBB, like harassment, abuses, and, talking about representative democracy. If you see the representation of Dalits, women and other marginalized communities, women in terms of, like representation, at least relatively it is okay. In terms of like representation of Dalits and other marginalized communities, it's still negligible. Constitution says proportional representation. Proportional based on the population. If that is the case, you should have at least, the real, number in the state machineries. It's not only parliament, it's not only executive, even in judiciary, even in other state functionaries, which is not the case. I just wanted to touch upon. More importantly, let us talk about orientation. Whether all 3 layers of governments are really oriented towards strengthening inclusive federalism or not. You will see the chart. It shows that there are kind of numbers of practices. I do not want to be critical because we are still under the inception, but we need to be honest and we need to be kind of constructive on it. And like if you see the orientation, I have few things to mention here. You have bulk of rights, you have dozens of rights mentioned, but enforcement part is very poor. You have only 16 laws enacted, even regulations are not there. And talking about 16 laws, you focused more on economic social rights, but not on collective rights. You have not yet law in regard to Dalits. You have not yet law in regard to indigenous peoples. Even for inclusion part, you have scattered provisions, not really specific one. The second important part is inclusion. As I said, proportionality is one of the things. But in addition to that, you have reservation quotas. Still, there are a lot of things. You're focusing more on tokenism, but not on genuine inclusion. And thirdly, you focus more on infrastructure development. If you see the periodic plans passed by all 753 local bodies, you will see 90% focuses on infrastructure. Of course, it is needed, but you should never forget on the human development part. That's about attitudinal change. That's about social justice, which is again the outcome, the visionary part of the Constitution. The third one is you're focusing more on the economic part while defining, analyzing the reservation affirmative action. Even the Supreme Court decision, one of the decisions I'm very much critical on, has, like bit miscommunicated the edifice of reservation, where it focuses more on economic part, which should not have been. Of course, economic part has to be considered. There is no doubt, Constitution says that. But more importantly, the exclusion part, the social structural part that you have to focus on. Likewise, you count more on numbers. You have 340 laws enacted by local bodies. If you analyze those 340 laws, there is only 2 laws, focusing more on inclusion part. The other are more on business part, more on operational part. We call it, day-to-day business. These are the operation. Of course, these are obvious, during inception, but your orientation should have been more on inclusive federalism, which is not the case. And talking about oversight, you are more cosmetic. Human Rights Commission, though they are trying to decentralize and disperse their, interventions, which is a good part. I have to respect it, but still, they're not there really, not there at the subnational level to hold the government more accountable to us. Likewise, other commissions, they don't have presence at all. So oversight mechanisms are not yet devolved, not yet, decentralized. And talking about, again, the orientation part, you are challenging rather strengthening federalism. You see the perception, you see the discourse, which is not very much, encouraging one at this moment of time. So let us, focus on A, B, C, D part, talking about way forward. Under A, you should be active. You meaning all government layers. It's not only government. The people, this civil society should also be active towards strengthening inclusion in Nepal. Otherwise, again, you will get, the same problem that you had, years back. We had already decade-long conflict. The second one is about accountable governance, the social accountability part. Each and every government machineries, bureaucracy to elected members should be accountable towards inclusion, towards human rights. The B part is behavioral part. We discussed much on political part of federalism. We discussed much on operational part of federalism, but never on behavioral part, which is about departing your mindset from centralized to, localized, for which, the behavioral change of your state machineries and the community is equally important to strengthen inclusive federalism. The third one is C, wherein you have 3 C. One is about creating amicable environment. You focus on developing system and strengthening. You translate those systems into the reality, for which, again, setting of the foundation. The second one is about commitment towards social justice. If you, again, analyze the Constitution, you will see social justice under different chapters. There are 12 reiteration of it. It's not just reiteration. It's about recommitment of the constitutional schemes towards it. If that is the case, we have to, really kind of ensure our commitment towards it by practicing those, The third one is about crafting your systems for inclusive federalism. Again, I have to go back to the local bodies, infrastructure focus, subnational level, business focus, operational focus. Federal level, just forging the consensus for coalition government. This is it. Not much on, again, strengthening, neither rolling out nor strengthening the federalism. Under the, again, the C, the civil society, the Constitution, this is the first time, has made civil society dutiful, obliged towards human rights. So it has not just asked government to respect or say protect human rights. Even for civil society and the private sectors, it has asked them to, think of, to mindful towards. If that is the case, again, civil society has also to be translated, And lastly, under D, the deconstruction of your stereotype mindset. That's a must. Everybody has to think of it. Second one, dealing with centralized, again, the political culture. And that may take few more time, but, you have to start. And that's the need of, time. Lastly, dedicated laws, as I said, Dalit rights, not only Dalit rights, other collective rights, but you have not had laws to really make them realized. So you're not, trying to even think of about that. So that's one more thing. And finally, decentralized oversight mechanism. That's about Human Rights Commission. That's about other commissions which are already exist, but not yet decentralized in terms of functionalism. So finally, I have few messages for your just consideration. The first thing is about social transformation, which is the outcome of comprehensive peace accord, interim constitution, and the new one. And we have to translate it into the reality, you know. Otherwise, it will kind of create frustration among the people. The second one, equality and justice are inalienable pillar of your democracy and federalism. If that is the case, again, you have to take it as a mantra. And lastly, unless the exclusion is rooted out, you will never get your democracy strengthened. Thank you so much.
धन्यवाद टेकजी, एकदम टाइममा नै यहाँले आफ्नो प्रस्तुति सक्नुभएको छ। अब नाउ आई वुड लाइक टु इन्भाइट Rekha Saxena. She is going to speak on the intergovernmental relations in India, a case for the cooperative and collaborative federalism. Your time starts.
Yeah, thank you so much. A very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Law School Kathmandu University for giving me this opportunity, and I also want to congratulate you for organizing such a big conference on a very relevant topic. And I'm sorry I missed the sessions yesterday. My topic was scheduled in session 1, but due to some urgent meetings, I came this morning only. But it is always a pleasure to come back to Nepal, and I have been coming here since 2007 when the new Constituent Assembly was elected. And so it's like a home, second home for me. Today I'm going to speak on intergovernmental relations in India. Intergovernmental, a very important feature of any federal system is intergovernmental relations. Because in a federal system where different levels of governments exist apart, there's need for interaction, for negotiation, for policy coordination. So in every federal system, you'll find one or the other variant of intergovernmental mechanism. Like Canada, which is the first country in the British Commonwealth that combined the parliamentary and federal principles in its constitution. British North America Act 1867, there was no mention of any such mechanism. But the first Ministers' Conference, which is the apex intergovernmental forum in Canada, took place as early as in 1901. There's no such mention in the 1982 Constitution, just a passing reference of First Ministers' Conference with regard to amending formula. So it may take form, constitutional form, or it may be informal or formal form, but in every federation you'll find one or the other variant of intergovernmental mechanisms. Now, broadly, I will talk about classify intergovernmental relations into 3 categories. First is the intergovernmental relations in parliamentary federal systems like India, Canada, Australia, where the typical mode for conduct of IGR is executive federalism, where the executive heads of the 2 levels of government meet and negotiate. Because the structural logic of parliamentary federal system suggests that the government of the day is accountable to the lower house. The upper house is weak in parliamentary federal system, especially in Canada, which is an appointed Senate. Similarly, in India, the intergovernmental relations via upper house Rajya Sabha, it's a weak link. And then in Canada also, the typical mode for conduct of intergovernmental relations is through executive branch, First Ministers' Conferences, ministerial conferences, secretaries' conferences. In Australia also, there are many experts on Australia here, so I am not going to touch that. So they also have many councils, Council of Australia, Australian governments, etc. Even in the Nepal Constitution of 2015, you have a provision for Provincial Council, Intergovernmental Fiscal Council, Provincial Coordination Council, etc. So this was one model. The second model is the presidential federations like United States, where the upper house, is very powerful. Like the American Senate is known as the most powerful federal house in the world. So the typical pattern for conduct of intergovernmental relations is legislative federalism. But it's not the meetings, the executives do meet, but that's very rare in presidential federation like America. Then the third model, which is a unique model, is German model, where it's a unique in the sense that provincial chancellors or their nominees, they are directly represented in the Bundesrat, the upper house. So they are able to protect the interest of the state in the upper house. So it's itself acts as an intergovernmental forum. So that's a very unique chamber. Now coming to India, like other federations, since Indian constitution was framed in the post Second World War period, so the constitution framers were very much aware about the need for such mechanisms, and therefore the Indian constitution, there was a provision for setting up of interstate council under Article 263 of the constitution, which was borrowed verbatim from Government of India Act 1935. But unfortunately, it was not set up until 1990 when multi-party system formally took place in India. Now, in India, the nature of intergovernmental relations is both formal and informal, and but over the years it has changed a lot, and new actors have come into picture, and it has often been debated that we should rather call it as intergovernmental interactions, because there are new actors like market, civil society. So we now call it intergovernmental interactions, and it operates at two axes, vertical and horizontal. First, at vertical level, we have interaction between national, local, and national, state, and local. And horizontal level, we have interaction between national, state, national civil society, and then market, and then state level again, state government, state market, and state civil society, and then local level same. We have local government, and then civil society at local level, and market. So it operates at two axes. Now I would say that if we talk about India, its interstate council was set up in 1990, but there were functional substitutes for interstate council. When planning started in India in 1950, planning commission was set up, and National Development Council was set up for clearance of plans by the two orders of the government. And there were several other commissions and councils, and when we had one party dominance of the Congress party, the same party Congress was ruling at the center and in most of the states. So the Congress intergovernmental interaction took place at Congress party forums like Congress Working Committee, Congress Parliamentary Board. So there was no need for such forum like interstate council, and there were all substitutes of interstate council, as I mentioned, National Development Council for in more salient area of fiscal federalism, and then several commissions and councils, and then zonal councils were set up under States Reorganization Act. And then I'm not going to the details because of I don't have much time. And then but recently zonal councils have been more of a defunct body, and there were 5 zonal councils, and later on one on northeastern zone that was set up. But recently it has become more active, and 3 meetings of the zonal council have taken place, and 29 meetings of the standing committee of zonal council have taken place. And especially during the BJP-led NDA time, it has increased a lot, and there's more focus to discuss issues and have more kind of mutual understanding to strengthen cooperative federalism. That has been the focus of the Ministry of Home. And then we have tribunals to resolve interstate river water disputes, and several tribunals have been set up from time to time, and if it is not resolved, then the matter finally goes to the Supreme Court. And then we have, so besides this, we have some informal mechanisms. Like we have Chief Ministers' conferences, which is an ad hoc mechanism. Chief Ministers of different zones will meet and interact. Chief Ministers of different parties will meet and interact and discuss issues specific to their particular zone. Then we have ministerial conferences. Ministers of 2 levels of government meet and negotiate. Then we have secretaries' conferences, especially I interviewed one of the health secretaries. He said they meet biannually. So the nitty-gritty of intergovernmental relations in India is one level below, at informal level. Okay. Now, Interstate Council was finally set up in 1990, when India, there was a transformation of party system from one party dominance to multi-party system. But once set up, it did meet for 6 years. Until now, only, almost, I think, 12 meetings of the Interstate Council have taken place. And one of the reasons my PhD was on intergovernmental relations. One of my book is Situating Federalism is on this theme. And so one of the reasons which I could see is that in multi-party coalition phase, where some of the regional parties were part of the ruling coalition at the national level, they could air their grievances in the federal cabinet. So federal cabinet itself became an intergovernmental forum. So they didn't need an alternative forum of interstate council and in multi-party coalition phase. So this was one of the reasons. And but from time to time, chief ministers' conferences do take place on different issues. But since 2014, two other new institutions of intergovernmental relations, they have been constituted when BJP-led NDA came to power. One is the transformation from Planning Commission to Niti Aayog, and especially the Governing Council of the Niti Aayog, which has been quite active, and 6 meetings have taken place so far to discuss intersectoral, interdepartmental, federal issues. And many regional councils have been set up to discuss specific issues affecting one or the other states, which is summoned by the Prime Minister. And chief ministers and lieutenant governors of the states, they are part of this. And then another important forum that has come up is after this adoption of the goods and services tax, unified tax structure, and setting up of GST Council, Goods and Services Tax Council, which is a constitutional body set up under Article 279 of the Constitution. And and this was to regulate, and direct the implementation of goods and services tax, with also decision over deciding over tax rates. So these are two important forums which have been constituted. Now, so to conclude, I would say that if we see intergovernmental relations in India, it exhibits centralization, and because in Canada they have previous conferences where federal government is not part of it. Only first ministers of provinces, they are part of it. But in India, in chief ministers conferences, federal prime minister chairs it. All these forums are chaired by the prime minister and federal government, they are part of it. So I think that it exhibits centralization, and another important feature is informality is the norm. Instead of having formal mechanism, the government prefers to have more informal mechanisms. I wrote several pieces in the newspapers where I argued that instead of having chief ministers conference, why can't we discuss it at interstate council? Then I would say that another important feature is that we have vertical interaction more at vertical level than horizontal level. And then especially the issue of accountability, transparency, inclusiveness, because civil society members are not part of these discussions. And in Canada also there was a lot of criticism that they are elite, they are too elitist, and 11 men in suit decide for the whole nation. Similarly, in India, we don't have, except for National Integration Council, which was set up in 1962, where civil society members and others, they were also part of it. But that was a kind of, crisis management body, and that was constituted whenever any crisis crops up, and then it is dissolved. And during COVID, I think that was a very good example of cooperative federalism and collaborative federalism. Though initially many central laws were, enacted, and there was a lot of criticism that many directives were sent by the center with regard to implementation of these laws and imposing of lockdowns. Yeah. So, but in later stage, the center, gave a lot of autonomy to states with regard to, relaxation in lockdowns and opening of schools and colleges and shops. So, and many states, they played a proactive role. Many states came up with new models, Agra model, Bhilwara model. And so I think COVID-19, that was a very good example where center and the states came together and coordinated with each other. in the true spirit of cooperative federalism, and that's what Prime Minister also said in one of these speeches, that competitive and cooperative federalism, that should be the motto, where states also compete with each other, because with privatization and globalization, a new kind of federal market economy has emerged, where states are directly negotiating with foreign capital, and they are generating their own resources. They are, so they're generating their more own resources, and therefore the focus has shifted from center to the states. So what we have is, center is of course powerful, but states have also become very powerful. So so I think the real what is required is not only cooperative but also collaborative federalism, which is non-hierarchical, and also competitive federalism, so that there is competition, and so both states can also contribute in reaching the peak of development. So I think with these words I will conclude, because I don't have much time. Thank you so much. Actually, I've been working on IGR for 2 decades, but when you have to sum up in 15 minutes, you don't know what to speak and what not to speak. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. अब यस पछाडि हामीसँग कमेन्टेटरको रूपमा प्रोफेसर डाक्टर सूर्य ढुङ्गेल हुनुहुन्छ, मानव अधिकार आयोगको माननीय सदस्य। उहाँलाई 10 मिनटको समय छ। म अब
10 मिनट हो कि 15 मिनट हो?
मलाई दिएकोमा 10 मिनट हो।
I have to make comments on 3 papers. Actually 10 minutes a person. If I have to add my own views, then it will be 4th paper. Whether I should do that, it's a question. I don't want to really take much of your time also, because this is the last but one session of the day of the whole conference. So many of the audience here, I think they may not have interest to listen to comments, because you may have your own comments on each of the papers. We have 3 very, actually Indu presented, actually she didn't have much time, although she had a long paper, and she was, as she mentioned correctly, she was also a contributor of the constitution making process, because as a lawyer, as an activist also, and she mentioned actually the inclusive democracy aspect, and from the implementation aspect, although she mentions that, all 3 papers, when I hear, except Rekha, who spoke about intergovernmental relations, and actually it would have been much better if you had, because she has been involved in the constitution making process in Nepal also. She could have related this issue with the Nepalese constitution also. That would have been much better for us also to discuss, because she has written several books as professor of political science at Delhi University. And she was actually involved and traveling around the world, and closely she's the advisor to Forum of Federation of Ottawa-based Canadian institution also. And another colleague, the Tech Tamata, he actually, and Indu, Tuladhar, both of the papers, I see, they made a very constructive remarks about the inclusivity, the inclusion elements that have been incorporated in the Constitution of Nepal. And actually, according to Indu, if I borrow her own sentence, she says, it offers a lot of opportunity for promoting the rights of the excluded people, whether it be from gender perspective, from ethnic perspective, or from different perspective, or vulnerable groups at the grassroots perspective. The opportunity that Constitution offers through 3 levels of governments, the federal institutions and entities, are very much positive. But the issue comes, and the question comes, she also raises, as to how these opportunities are really offered to the people through institutional means. And there are a lot of hurdles and constraints. And on that point, even Take Tamata also in his paper, although both Indu and Take mentions about inclusive rights, inclusive democracy, and from human rights perspective as well. That's one of the very important elements they brought during the discussion, the human rights perspective of the Constitution, and which Indu has mentioned in her papers in detail, the whole fundamental rights chapter, and directive principles, and the words inclusive democracy, inclusive representation, proportional, inclusive principles. Several places it has been mentioned in the Constitution. But surprisingly, not at any place the inclusivity or inclusion or representative inclusion, or this inclusion word has not been defined in the Constitution at all. So that's very surprising. So therefore, in the morning, yesterday, when Dr. Ananda Bhattarai, he little pointed out about inclusive democracy from ecological point of view. He mentioned about, I will just, one line just I mentioned, he talked about Takis Photopoulos, who propagated the idea of liberatory project about ecological democracy. And now that ecological democracy aspect he has related to inclusivity from political perspective, from economic perspective, from cultural perspective, and from ecological perspective. And the whole issue of climate change now, climate justice, that actually draws the issue of Nepal's claiming internationally, and from the constitutional perspective also, when you define inclusivity in our constitution, that ecological aspect, the climate justice aspect, can be interpreted and pervasively really applied, and as a claim, not only internally within the country, but against the world now in COP28 also. Our country is really proposing papers, and that will contain one of this inclusivity rights from ecological perspective as well. While commenting on Rekha's paper, I will simply say she mentions about classical approaches with regard to American constitutionalism and Swiss constitutionalism that she calls legislative federalism. And then comes back to the Indian model where intergovernmental relations are well maintained through the legislative provisions also, more than legislative provision, the executive practices, vertically as well as horizontally. So that practice enables the state mechanism of at the different 3 tiers level, one by involving civil society as well. So that expands the jurisdiction and the regime of intergovernmental relations and dialogue to bring the civil society in and discuss more elaborately on really addressing the issues that the federal entities confront, both at the local level, provincial level, that is state level, and federal level. And with regard to that, she gives an example of COVID-19 issue, that when Prime Minister Modi was able to really extensively mobilize this executive federalism aspect in order to really address health issues in India, all over India, which confronted a massive problem. That actually, when we read during the presentation of John, he also mentioned about COVID-19 in Australia. But COVID-19 issue was a issue that was some kind of that raised conflict between state and the federal government, central government. So, 1 minute, okay. I'll simply say, just in 1 minute, all 3 papers were very good. And I think they have written in detail. The papers are in the hands of all of us. For us, actually, one of the problems in translating the spirit of federalism into reality is, as we heard from various discussions, the reluctant political parties. The reluctant political parties, they half-heartedly implement federalism in Nepal. That's one key issue. And our friend here, Dr. Minendra Rizal is here. He mentioned, when he chaired here, we know that, he was the person, very active member in the parliament. But why didn't he get ticket? Because of the political party's leadership. We all know that. So therefore, the political parties, unless we are able to make them accountable and enable them to act in accordance with the spirit of constitution and federalism, our federal system will be always at risk. Yesterday, during the inaugural session, we heard Deputy Mayor of Kathmandu also, and our Chief Minister also. What he was saying, practically, was we are governed by, the CDOs are more powerful than the Chief Ministers. So, unless and until the central level government system or the political leadership trust the provincial leadership, provincial governance, elected governance, I think the federalism will always be in crisis. One of the good things about Nepal's federal system, I will conclude in 15 seconds, is that our electoral process, I think we have to think about reforming electoral process, not the constitution at the moment. I want to I read, the recommendation of John, that, Australian federalism was possible to really operate for so many 125 years, not because of the constitutional changes, but through the evolution and the judicial interpretation. And that recommendation, that remark was there in the address of one of the judges, Anand Mohan Bhattarai also. One good thing about our governance system, local federal system, is the local government, once elected, the central government nor provincial government, they cannot remove them for 5 years. Once they are elected there for 5 years. That's one of the very good part of our local governance mechanism, and I think we are trying to we are becoming too optimistic. We want fast result, but through the slow process of poor leadership. Therefore, if we have more patience for some time, after a few elections, and one recommendation that I would like to make based on our colleagues' recommendation is all that, I think we don't have a mechanism to monitor the implementation of federal system in Nepal. That was debated very much when there was a constitutional debate during the constitution making process. The federalism is a very complex process. Moreover, almost we have not only 3, it's a 4th year of government. How to implement it effectively? That who monitors it? How to monitor it? And to ensure that periodically review it. I think Kathmandu University is thankful for, actually this is one of the forums, in such forums, that allows us to speak about its positive aspect as well as negative aspect. And Dr. Bibin is here, is standing there. I think he will be, I must thank you, Professor Bipin and all the Kathmandu University, and especially the visitors who contributed their ideas, and all friends here participating. Sorry for taking more time, and I would have liked to speak for 30 more minutes, but sorry. Thank you very much.
Next time, organizer will consider your request. I hope so. I'm sorry I could not do that now. So I'm instructed by the organizers to reduce the number of questions to be taken from 6 to 3. So now I would like to open the floor, and I will take only 3 questions. How to decide? Random. You stand up first and start. I don't have any.
It's me now. So, namaste again. My question goes to Mr. Tamata. Thank you very much for an opening presentation. Actually, brought a new terminology, behavioral federalism. So, what do you really mean by behavioral federalism? If it means...
Thank you very much. This is one question. Next one. Grab your mic and start.
मेरो नाम श्रीराम पोखरेल, सङ्घीय बसमा युवाको तर्फबाट। इन्दु तुलाधारलाई मेरो प्रश्न छ। यो इन्क्लुसिभ डेमोक्रेसीको कुरा गर्दा हामीले दुईटा ऐनलाई कम्पेयर गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। एउटा प्रतिनिधि सभा निर्वाचन ऐन 2074, अर्को निजामती सेवा ऐन 2049। यी दुवैको उद्देश्य भनेको नेपालमा इन्क्लुसिभ डेमोक्रेसीलाई स्थापित गर्ने हो। तर त्यसको माध्यम प्रतिनिधि सभा निर्वाचन ऐनले आदिवासी जनजाति 28.7% भए पुग्छ भन्छ, लोकसेवा आयोगले 27 चाहिन्छ भन्छ, मधेसी चाहिँ प्रतिनिधि सभा निर्वाचन ऐनले 15.3% भए पुग्छ भन्छ, निजामती सेवा ऐनले 22 चाहिन्छ भन्छ, दलित पहिलोले 13.8 भन्छ, दोस्रोले 9 भन्छ, खसारेको बारेमा निर्वाचन आयोग ऐन बोल्छ तर निजामती सेवा ऐन बोल्दैन, थारूको विषय र मुस्लिमको विषयमा प्रतिनिधि सभा निर्वाचन ऐन बोल्छ तर यतापट्टि लोकसेवा आयोग बोल्दैन, अपाङ्ग र पिछडी विषयमा लोकसेवा आयोग बोल्छ तर निर्वाचन आयोगको ऐन बोल्दैन। एउटै उद्देश्य प्राप्ति गर्नको लागि दुईवटा संवैधानिक आयोगले प्रयोग गर्ने ऐनहरूमा यस्तो क्लास देखिन्छ भने, पोलिसी कन्फ्लिक्ट देखिन्छ भने यो इन्क्लुसिभ गभर्नेन्स हामीले कसरी प्राप्त गर्न सक्छौँ? के तपाईँको स्टडी पेपरमा यी दुईवटा ऐनलाई कम्पेयर गर्नुभएको छ कि छैन? मैले त यो यिनीहरूको वर्किङ मेकानिजममै समस्या देखिरहेको छु।
Thank you. Third question.
I'm going to raise a bit sensitive issue, and I have a bit of latitude because I married a Nepali woman, but I'm still a foreigner. But yeah, I will play a bit the role of devil lawyer. You know, a few days ago, the Home Ministry appointed a commission to provide guidance on how to make the Home Ministry more effective. 9 members, all from the same communities. So don't you think that Nepal should do more to leverage its diversity? And I'm surprised that only Mr. Tamata is raising the very sensitive issue of reservation. And don't you think that we have here a researcher like Mr. Roop, Mr. JP from Dignity International doing a lot of research on the lack of inclusion in the political space? And my question is to Mrs. Indu. What do you think about reservation? And then also I think what Dr. Rijal said before is very important, because if we want to make...
Thank you very much. We got your point.
We need champion from inside, from the elite, not just activists or foreigner like me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now I would like to request the panelist, if there is any concern related to you, please respond very briefly and concisely.
Thank you. मैले यहाँको कमेन्टलाई चाहिँ मैले एड्रेस गर्न कोसिस गर्छु। जस्तो यहाँले भन्नुभयो नि मैले यो प्रतिनिधि सभा निर्वाचन सम्बन्धी ऐन र निजामती ऐन हेरेँ कि हेरेन भन्ने सन्दर्भमा मेरो पेपरमा चाहिँ मैले यो ऐन हेरेको छैन, किनभने मैले लोकल गभर्नेन्स लाई मात्र फोकस गरेर मेरो पेपर भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले लोकल गभर्नमेन्टको चाहिँ इलेक्सन सम्बन्धी एक्टलाई चाहिँ मैले हेरेको छु र त्यो एक्टलाई हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले के पाएको छु भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यसले चाहिँ कोटा सिस्टम रिजर्भेसनको व्यवस्था गरेको छ। मेरो चाहिँ पेपरमा मैले के आर्ग्यु गरेको छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो अहिले जुन लेजिस्लेटिभ इन्टरभेन्सन्सहरू जुन भइरहेको छ, जुन इन्क्लुजन र पार्टिसिपेसनको दौरानमा जुन जति पनि कामहरू भइरहेको छ त्यसले चाहिँ आर्टिकल 38 आर्टिकल 42 र कन्स्टिट्युसनको प्रिएम्बललाई चाहिँ रेस्पेक्ट गर्नु सकिरहेको छैन, जसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनलिजम र कन्स्टिट्युसनल सुप्रिमेसीलाई चाहिँ पार्लियामेन्टले नै एक किसिमले चाहिँ अकाउन्टेबिलिटी मेन्टेन नगरिरहेको हो कि भन्दाखेरि पनि मैले त्यो किसिमको आर्गुमेन्ट चाहिँ मेरो पेपरमा गरेको छु। अर्को कुरा चाहिँ अब म आफैले पनि पोलिटिकल पार्टिजहरूको चाहिँ जुन इन्क्लुजनको कुराहरूको सन्दर्भमा सुप्रिम कोर्टमा जुन केसेसहरू मैले फाइल गरेको थिएँ र सुप्रिम कोर्टले एकदमै हजुर डिटेल अब इन्क्लुजनको पर्सपेक्टिभबाट एउटा डिसिजन्सहरू आएको छ, त्यसलाई इलाबोरेट गरेको छ। तर मैले चाहिँ के पाएँ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ सुप्रिम कोर्टको जुन डिसिजन्स आएको छ इन्डु तुलाधर भर्सेस इलेक्सन कमिसनको केसमा चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै इन्क्लुजनको पर्सपेक्टिभलाई चाहिँ डाइनामिक ढङ्गले चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनको स्पिरिटलाई इन्टरप्रिटेसन गर्नु भन्दाखेरि पनि कन्स्टिट्युसनलाई चाहिँ अलिकता न्यारो डाउन गरेर चाहिँ इन्टरप्रिटेसन गरेको हो कि भन्ने, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ इन्क्लुजिभिटी र इन्क्लुसिभ स्टेटको कुरा र इन्क्लुसिभ हामीले जुन एउटा समावेशी राष्ट्रको जुन परिकल्पना हामीले गरेको छ, हामीले चाहिँ त्यो टुवर्ड्स जानको लागि चाहिँ धेरै अझै स्ट्रगलहरू गर्नुपर्ने र हाम्रो पार्लियामेन्टेरियनहरूसँग, हाम्रो एकाडेमियासँग र हामी सिभिल सोसाइटी अर्गनाइजेसन्सहरूसँग पनि धेरै नै हामीले संवादहरू गर्नुपर्ने अवस्था चाहिँ मैले देखेको छु। तर मेरो बेसिक आर्गुमेन्ट चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनले हामीलाई स्कोप प्रशस्त मात्रामा दिएको छ, हामी सङ्कुचित गर्ने दौरानमा नजाउँ भन्ने मात्र मेरो की मेसेज हो। थ्याङ्क यू।
So talking about the behavioral aspect of federalism, I don't have much. It's a too generic, edifice of your governance. But briefly, 2-3 things. The first thing is about your attitude, the transformative attitude, which would really set the foundation for inclusive federalism. So that's one thing. Second thing is the narratives. We use narrative again because you have a legacy of centralized, political manifestation. So you don't really change your narratives to, in line with constitution. So the narrative part, which has to be gendered, which has to be, inclusive friendly. The third more important part is about practice. You have a lot of good things, a lot of laws, a lot of institutions, democratic mechanisms that we have been able to establish, though not much, but still, they are good things, but you never practice those. So if we set these all things in a very effective manner, I'm sure that we could, see the changes at the ground level. So talking about reservation, though the question was not targeted to me, but still, we should have good discussion on it. The whole, affirmative action package of the Constitution has one of the element that is about reservation. But if you see the practice, we have very much, the different discourse established so far, which we have to break it off. Otherwise, again, only frustration, only disappointment, only conflict will get, more institutionalized. So I do not again have time to go into, but one thing that I have to touch upon is about translate it into the private sector as well. Private sectors are not the mechanism who do not have accountable towards that, towards constitution, towards human rights. They are also one, rightly, and more importantly, not only in the recruitment, but also in the promotion. And it has to be genuine. It has to be backed up by the affirmative action. Thank you.
If you have any.
There was no question addressed to me, but I just want to say a few words that, as I mentioned, that in India, intergovernmental relations have been mainly informality. But in the true spirit of cooperative federalism, there's need to strengthen the mechanisms of intergovernmental relations, not only in India, but also in Nepal, and in India particularly, what has happened with privatization and globalization, that jurisdictional conflicts have increased, and every issue you pick up has a federal dimension. So we need to strengthen these institutions of IGR. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation as well as for the comments and for the questions and clarifications. So let me conclude. I will not take more than 5 or 6 minutes because I haven't spoken in the beginning also. So I will take around 6 minutes because I have 10 minutes. 4 minutes is given to for the floor, and to be specific, I will conclude taking 4 to 5 points. In the whole discussion, it has been reflected that, so our constitution itself is carrying a spirit of the transformative constitutionalism. So that is the important point we have taken into discussion today. Despite the good part or structure of the constitutions, for the inclusive federal structure, that is very much expressed in the constitution. But despite all the good provisions in the constitutions, there are anomalies and discrepancies in the implementations. So in the implementations, it has been highlighted in due course of the discussion. Number one, there is defect in the institutional framework. For example, there are inter-state mechanisms are there. So there are provisions of meetings between provinces, between local government as well as the state government as well as the federal government, but they has not taken place on time. Even if the meeting is organized, the decision is taken. Number two, meeting is organized, decision has not been taken in a well manner. Even if decision is taken, that it has not been implemented. Even if it is implemented, that is not implemented with full strength. So these are the problems. We can solve these kinds of problems by diverse discourse and creating a positive pressure to the government and other stakeholders. That is the second important point I have noted. And the structure, I have remembered, I was in one of the committee in the Constitutional Assembly where Minendra Rizal was the member. So I have noticed that all the Constitutional Assembly members' discussion was focused on the forms of government, electoral system, and others. But none of them has really focused on the schedule, which was the core aspect of the federalism. We have given very less time on the schedule. That is why there is problem in the schedule. For example, so the same issue is in the federal list, the same issue we can find in the state list as well as the local list. Not only that, the same issue is also there in the concurrent list. So that is the discrepancies in the constitution. In this regard, as Indu has already highlighted, the role of court is very important for that to harmonize the provision of the constitution and make it clear where the power really lies in the spirit of the constitution, which is transformative constitution. So in that sense, the role of court is very important, but unfortunately she has highlighted that court role is to reduce the power of the people or the local or the province rather than it has been reflected to centralize the power once again. So that is another important issue we have highlighted in this session. And to make a comprehensive kind of comparative kind of things, for example, India and Nepal, we have a same kind of parliamentary federal structure. But there is one difference, that is the law-making power of the federal in terms of the concurrent list. In the context of India, for making a law for the concurrent list, they have to take only consent from the state. But in our context, the federal government can produce the bill in the parliament, the federal law is made, and the state and the local bodies has to make their law in accordance with the federal law. So that is the difference in the law-making process. I will not take much time. So to conclude, the word from our friend Tamata, the inclusion and federalism is the very important milestone we have taken from the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, interim constitution, as well as continued in the constitution. But we have a very bad tendency in Nepal. We achieve something, we don't resolve it, we don't flourish it and get the outcome. In between, we are so frustrated and we start to criticize and go for another aspect. So his word was, it is a time to strengthen the inclusive federal structure rather than criticize it. And for strengthening it, we need to have these kinds of discursive discussions, discursive methods, identify the weaknesses, and amplify the strength. So this is the time to amplify the strength, and we have to minimize the weaknesses. That is needed to a maximum could be the way of amending the constitution. So we have to look at what kinds of issues are identified and how we can resolve it. Taking with these words, I would like to conclude this session.